You're tuned in to the Frontline show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, on Pop Radio Worldwide, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. Stay tuned. This is the Frontline show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, on Pop Radio, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. Thank you for tuning in. I got a special guest with me tonight, Mr. Dimitri Roberts, and a great co-host, Queenie Greene. So people, get ready for an exciting time, full of information and opportunity for us to get connected to resources. This is the Frontline show. Now, with that being said, what is the Frontline show? The pressing issues of the day in our communities, in the world that's going on, whether it be violence, whether it be economic opportunity, whether it be prison industrial complex, those frontline issues that we talk about in barbershops, beauty salons, those frontline issues that affect our communities and our families throughout the country. This is the Frontline show. And I'm about to bring to you a great brother who I believe to introduce himself, and then after that, my co-host, Queenie Greene, will introduce herself because you will be seeing a lot of her. So with that being said, Dimitri, please talk to the people, tell them who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, hey, first, thanks for having me on, Tyrone.
Speak into the mic, bro.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on, Tyrone. It's truly an honor to be here and to have an opportunity to speak on these issues. I'm Dimitri Roberts. Really, at the end of the day, a young African-American from the south side of Chicago who's just looking to make a change and a dynamic change in the way police and communities engage with each other. I'm a former Chicago police officer from right here in the city of Chicago, where I worked in, I think, one of the toughest crime areas in the country, Inglewood. But before that, I was a young African-American male that, just like most young black men in Chicago, felt the other hand and a brutal hand of Chicago police violence as a youth. And so I was able to turn that pain into something, into some progress, and able to become a police officer later. And now we've built some technology to help ensure that not just African Americans, but all community members are able to have a better experience with police officers and ensure that their lives, their rights, and their their standing in the community is protected on the other side of police engagement.
Thank you. Before we get back, I would like Queenie to speak on that and herself, to talk to you all out there about what it is that she do and what she's been involved in that makes her a perfect co-host for me. Go ahead, Queenie. Talk to the people.
How you doing, everyone? Queenie Greene, owner of WVOG, first WVOG Radio, now WVOG Media. I've been in radio, been a personality for about 5 years, owned my station for about 3, and I've touched probably every area of the community, whether it's been giving turkeys to schools, blessing Thanksgiving dinners for families, junior varsity basketball coach for the girls team, CPS, in the City Colleges of Chicago. You can see me most of the time in the summertime bouncing around at all the different Caribbean festivals. And my latest Windy City Review, the show that we do where we sit down with Chicagoland politicians and just about everybody who represents our city. And we want to empower the community. We want the community understanding, everything. Yes. Economic development. We want the community understanding what's going on in their communities. Yes. And we want to hold the politicians, we want to hold the higher ups accountable. And just for myself growing up, we never had a hand in it. We always saw it on TV.
Yes.
And we saw it on TV, and then you would hear everyone talking about, I voted for them because they said they were going to do this, and I voted for them because they said they were going to do that, or I tried to go into the office, I can't get into the office. I tried to call, I can't call. So I put it on my shoulders to invite them. I've been blessed to have a rapport with them, and they respect me, and they sit down with me. So I invite them in. If you can't get into their office, if they don't answer the phone for you, you can ask your questions. They'll talk to you right there on air with me.
Well, sister, I just want you to know, thank you. I've always respected you. I've been following you for a while.
Thank you.
I thought this was a perfect opportunity for us to have a female's perspective and a voice to the frontline issues, when in fact it's always the women who are on the front line to me in the first place. Since women are the first teachers and trainers of our children, it would be right, in my opinion, to have a show that didn't have a female's perspective on these frontline issues.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome, sister, and you know me and everything that I do in protecting and respecting the black woman. I want to continue that in everything that I do, not just in talk, but in actions and deeds. So we're happy to have you on the Frontline show, and the first of many. And with that being said, Dimitri, get right to our guest. This brother here, man, exemplified what we always talk about in terms of trying to or looking for an answer to the violence, to police brutality and accountability, and the fact that you were a police who sought out ways to best serve the public, because we always talk about the bad cops. We never really focus on those who serve the community, because in the midst of all the chaos and madness and police brutality, those cops' voice go under the radar, or those individuals who actually serve, you don't really hear them. Can you speak on the dynamics of what it is that we feel before we get into what it is that you're doing now to bring accountability to the police department, the communities, and to help us to reduce violence? Can you bring some premise to what made you want to be a police, and seeing those things and seeing the opportunity to transform some lives as well as create opportunity?
Well, I think, Tyrone, a lot of our stories started the same way. As young black men living southwest sides of Chicago,
yes, sir,
we saw a lot of different things that caused us to think and feel that there was a better way for stuff to be done. And in most cases, we were the victims, or we were on the receiving end of whether it was poor police service, poor community service, whether we didn't get the city services that we saw other communities getting. So we really had to fend for ourselves. And as a result of fending for ourselves, I think, a lot of people come from African-American communities, but particularly from Chicago, we have a level of drive, we have a level of diligence in us, and we have a level of focus in us that causes us to get out and say, we want to make change, and we're not going to stand in the face of these things, and we're not just going to stand up and let folks run us over, and we're going to make a difference with that from our experiences. So the short of it is, I turn my pain into something positive. And as a result of turning my pain into something positive, what will happen is people from those same communities like you will stand in the gaps with us and help us to make this really what it is. So that's where the real start happened. It's no different than you being where you're at. Many people know your story, and I admire you for doing this and speaking up and having a voice around these issues and really being on the front line, which is a great title for what the conversations need to happen and the way they need to come across. But it needs to be it needs to come across in a diverse way, and you're creating a platform for that to happen. So I commend you for what you're doing, brother. But we all got the same starts, and for folks that are out there listening and watching, we're no different than you. We're just here and have a platform, but we are your advocates. We're here talking on your behalf. So we want to hear from you. We want to know what you have to say so we can make sure that the narrative continues to develop and grow, but more so we're putting the resources and the opportunities back into the communities that need them the most.
With that being said, you're tuned in to the Frontline show on Pop Radio Worldwide, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. We'll be right back after this music break. Welcome back to the Frontline show on Pop Radio Worldwide, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. Thank you for tuning in. And listen, we went off with Demetrius laying it out to us about who and what it is that he do. And Queenie, do you have any questions for Demetrius in regards to that?
I want to touch on just kind of some of the hood facts that you opened up with, that we don't hear or know about the good police officers out there. And at the end of the day, I think I spoke on this before. I think that we all in the city have some changing to do on how we handle each other. Everybody. I think us as a community, we definitely need to understand better how to channel our bottled up DNA anger when we deal with the police, and they need to change the way they handle us all the way around. But growing up from the hood, we don't hear about the good police officers, because it's not, not to step on the police officers' toes, but do you have police officers policing the neighborhood other than running with their guns? No. Do you have police officers helping Miss Mary with her groceries into the house? No. Do you have police officers helping little ladies across the street? No. Do you have them, just fixing when the chain pops on a child's bike and they, trying to figure out how to get their bike back going? Do you see a police officer kneel down helping them change their tire? No, you don't see that. Only time, and this is, like I said, not to step on the police toes, but this is from my eyes and my living in the hood and my growing up, coming up, I never saw it. I know they never helped me, and my chains flipped a lot of times. And I think that is one of the biggest problems, because the police want the respect of the community, but at the same time, we need to see more than just coming, throwing somebody on the car, or coming just doing the police job. We need to see your humanity as well as you do your job well. And I think it would kind of it would probably bridge the gap a little bit. Why we don't see and why we don't hear about those good police officers that are out there doing it. We need more to do it.
So to your point, Queenie, I think that everybody in the community who's had a negative police interaction would agree with you. So this is not to make excuses for police officers that aren't doing those things. But what I can tell you, as a police officer who did just about every single thing that you said, it's not that it's not being done. It's just that it's not being reported, or you don't have the mechanism to see it. You don't have a platform to see what a good police officer is doing. Mm-hmm. Because what tends to happen is we only talk about the negative. You only hear about the bad stuff that happens. And so what I've done is help to change that through the app. The app's name is Protected, that we're going to be launching in about a month, to help do that. So now you'll be able to rate your interaction with police officers, good or bad, because most police officers are having positive police interactions all the time, but you never have an opportunity to do, but you really don't have a mechanism to report that, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you know where that officer works, unless you know what district he's in, his badge number, his name, and then you go and fill out a formal report at a police station, and then it somehow gets in his record, but nobody then gets to see that. So now, in a very public way, you'll be able to see how your police officer is rated by yourself and other community members.
So with that being said, I appreciate this brother here, man. I ain't want him to get too far ahead, because I really need to give him his due as it relates to the app. And I'm gonna just honestly say it, because I know something about the app that he created, and that he's building out to better vet police officers, to better try to ease that narrative of just making them accountable for their action. This app is awesome. This particular app, this brother, he a future billionaire. I'm glad he my friend.
Nice to meet you.
So he about to be a future billionaire, and we gonna be a part of that process all the way through. And see, it's not just an app. This man and what he's putting forth and what he has created, and him and his team will make it, like I say, easier to hold law enforcement accountable, as well as give the community a stake in policing themselves. This app also will provide community benefit, meaning that in his mind, he feels that his employees, all his employees should come from the communities they live. So that's whether it's north, south, east, or west of Chicago, whether you're brown or black or white, as it relates to what this does in reducing violence and crime. So with that being said, I'm gonna let him come back now and properly introduce his product, his service, and what it is that he planned on doing for the city of Chicago as we spread this application across the country.
Well, I mean, that's very generous of you, Tyrone. And what I can say to not just you, but to everybody, is that this is not something that I've built on my own. This is from my experiences as a young black man on the south side of Chicago. This is my experiences as a police officer, but it's from also partnering with people like you, Tyrone. It's from partnering with people, and more so people believing in me along the way and boosting me up and saying, hey, you know what, you can do it. And I think that there's a potential solution out there that we can all stand behind, and that's really the goal here. So, to your point, this is not just about Dimitri Roberts. This is not about 7-Star. You guys can find the app. You guys can learn more about me and what we're doing at 7star.com. That's www.svnstar.com. That's www.svnstar.com. Or you can Google Dimitri Roberts and it'll bring up some things that we're working on. So to that point, Tyrone, this is for the community. This is not for me. This is not for my own edification. This is so we can protect our best assets in our community, and that's each other. But I also have to address that this is a two-sided deal, right? This is not just about protecting community members. It's about protecting police officers as well. As a police officer, working in Inglewood, I had a young family. I got up and I put my uniform every day and I went out and I did the best that I could. But the most important thing to me was that I went home to my young daughter and wife at the end of the night. Yeah. So we cannot also ignore that police officers get up every day and they put their lives on the line and they stand in the gap when we have, nobody calls the police when we're having a good day. Nobody calls the police to invite them to barbecues. Right. Everybody calls the police when you can no longer resolve the issues that are going on in your life socially or in a community fashion, right? You call the police, regardless of what your relationship is with them. So we just want to help use this platform to help bridge that divide between communities and law enforcement officers in a way that really reinforces what you see on the side of every police car. And on the side of every police car, it starts with serve. It says serve and protect. So we want to start with a service first mentality, but more so, Tyrone, you mentioned us making money and resources. The bigger picture here is that we reinvest those resources in the communities that need them the most. And that's in jobs. Our headquarters is going to be here. And to Tyrone mentioned a little bit about our employment platforms. I think that one of the most tragic things that we do in our communities is that we don't understand our worth and our value from the knowledge and the resources and the intelligence that we have from just living and growing up in those communities. So you as a community member know more about your community than anybody else. So what can you do with that knowledge? You can help police. You can help your fellow community members. You can help engage on a platform that says, hey, maybe I don't want to call the police, but I sure don't want this problem in my neighborhood either. And we're going to create a platform and an opportunity for you to talk directly to another community member from your community that knows what you're talking about, knows the community culture, and then they can be that bridge between connecting you with law enforcement officers. And law enforcement officers need that as well, because we have a very alarming high crime rate in this city. And that crime rate needs to come down because, again, at a very human nature, at the end of the day, we all bleed the same color. So no matter whether you are a police officer wearing a uniform, whether you're a community member putting on your suit, or whether you have on a white t-shirt and jeans, at the end of the day, you bleed the same color as me. So there's not much difference between us, and we want to help bridge that divide in a very specific way.
Hold that point. Once again, you're watching the Frontline show. Tuning in to iHeartRadio, Pop Radio Worldwide, and Spotify Premium. I told y'all it was going to be an exciting show. We'll be back after this music break.
On the front line.
Right. All right, this is Queenie Greene, and I am your co-host, Pop Radio. My host, the awesome Tyrone Muhammad, Pop Radio Worldwide. Make sure you check us out, iHeartRadio station. Tonight we have Demetrius here. Oh man, we talking about this app. I know that was probably like a real short station identification. I want to know about this app.
So before we get into that app, I want to just say this, people. Listen. We on the front line. Queenie been on the front line. Pop been on the front line.
Radio.
See, just making noise and not creating change and opportunity isn't enough.
No.
So when Tyrone Muhammad, Queenie Greene, and those ones actually that's on the front line, I don't even call myself an activist. I call myself a community servant.
Yeah.
So as a servant, it's not just my job to highlight and make noise, but it's also my job. Like if I send a brick through that place, you better believe I'm looking to open up a nail shop. I'm looking to open up nail shops. I'm looking to open up beauty supply houses. That's why I went to St. Louis, to tap into certain markets so that I can bring it back. And then all my relationships throughout my time home, 2.5 years after serving 21 years in prison, has been about serving the community and the people, and I haven't stopped or took a break from that. So when we bring people like Dimitri Roberts and I connect with him, I never hold it to myself and say, man, I'm gonna hold this, and I introduce other little homies like Henlows and a lot of brothers so that we can build the community up, so that we can understand that economics is warfare, business is warfare. Until we start getting into the fight, we will never be able to clear and win those battles that's killing and destroying us as a people. So we have to get in it, we have to do it, and we have to bring something to the table. So here we go. Watch this. When you hear this app, I'm telling you, you're going to know how we're about to revolutionize this. We're going in the skyscrapers in all the cities in the world. We're bringing you with us. Go ahead.
So it's not just an app, it's a movement.
Yeah.
And that movement is to ensure that no other citizens, but in specific, no more African Americans, no more under-resourced members of our communities die or are injured on the other side of a police interaction. Period. I've been a police officer. I've chased dozens of people with guns, and none of them ended up dead. So I know, after working in the toughest crime neighborhood in the country, that it doesn't take all that to have to police effectively. So that's not a knock on my fellow officers, because again, we got police officers that are out there doing it 100 times over every hour, that are creating the positive impacts in the community and touching people's lives in a specific way. They need that recognition, which is why, you know, we're making sure that we have a rating system in there. But that rating system is two-sided, Tyrone, because there are some folks in the community that need to be checked. There's some folks in the community that need to be locked up. There are some bad actors that are out there that the criminal justice system is made for. But there are also people that are in that system that shouldn't be there, we're going to work to change that. So to your point, in order to have that economic platform, you got to give people jobs. You got to give people a living wage. You got to give people health care benefits and vacation time to go and enjoy the fruits of their labor. And that's why, just as much as we're promoting an app, we're saying that we're bringing jobs to the city of Chicago in a way that's never been done before. Because there is no current job category that calls you a community subject matter expert. Well, you do a 7-star. Yes. So now when you use our app, you're going to be able to connect in real time, whether you're involved with a police interaction or on the other side of a police interaction, or even before. You'll be able to connect with somebody in real time from your community that knows what's going on in your community and can talk to and can speak to the issues that are going on in your community. We take that data and that information and we get it in the right channels so we can get you the help and the assistance that you need.
So when we go ahead, Queenie. No, please. We got 1,000 questions.
You're right. So let's just say on a typical day, whether it's good or bad, if I have interacted with you some type of way, whether it's good or bad, do I need, like, if I don't have your badge number and I don't know what your name is, because I know that's probably like the number one.
I don't mean to cut you off, but where this all starts is the first level of the app, and you can see this online. Again, it's www.svnstar.com. That's 7star.com, or Google Dimitri Roberts, and you'll find all the information, and it'll show you about the app. And the app is called Protected. Protected, keeping you safe. So the first line of the application that we're rolling out is going to address traffic stops. So 80% of police escalation between community members happens at traffic stops.
Yes, sir.
When does it happen? It happens when a police officer walks up to your car and you like, hey, I'm just trying to go home. Why are you stopping me? Why are you pulling me over? So what people will see now, immediately when you get pulled over by the police officer, you will see their full profile pop up on your phone. That'll be their name, their badge number, the agency that they work for.
Wait, explain that now. How?
Let me finish. The agency that they work for,
right?
The reason you're being stopped, the location of your stop, and you will also have the opportunity to do things like connect with the network. If you want to send out a message to friends and family members to let them know about your police interaction, and then the police officer can completely complete their traffic stop without ever having to get out of their car.
Okay. Now you said we can find this on the website.
Yeah, it's www.svnstar.com.
Try to pull this up while we're here.
But the reason and a lot of people are gonna be like, well, how does that work? Well, again, we're addressing two sides of this issue, right? So a lot of people don't understand that the whole reason a police officer is walking up to your car in the first place is because when a police officer conducts a traffic stop and they run your license plate, that just brings them back information about your vehicle, not about you. So you've driven rental cars, you've driven somebody else's car, so the police officer doesn't actually know who you are. So the reason a police officer approaches your vehicle in the first place is to get two things. One, make sure you have a valid ID and license, so to get your license, and then to get your insurance card or the insurance on the vehicle. We're delivering that data to the officer in real time once you hit connect with your officer via the app. So they'll get a copy of your driver's license and a copy of your insurance card in real time. And a great feature, you can call your police officer, or the police officer can call you directly in the app prior to them approaching your vehicle.
Wow. So, okay. So, and not to say that you are or you ever have been, but from something that you said, just from a family member that I know something happened with. So when a police officer, and I know this is not the app, but when a police officer pulls you over, so for somebody like either one of these two gentlemen that have been in jail for 20 years, it doesn't come up armed and dangerous, like on when it comes up, like if they are in their own vehicle and it's registered by them being in jail for over 20 years or 20 years or 5 years or however many, it doesn't come up that person is like armed and dangerous. Basically whatever is in that person's police profile, that doesn't come up when you stop. It only comes up. No, none of that stuff comes up. So when you run a vehicle information through our police data terminals, no information about you as the person who either owns the vehicle or is driving the vehicle comes up. That's the whole reason you have to get a license in order to then run a name check. And even then, it doesn't give you rap sheet data.
That's just
that just tells if you have a warrant or in Chicago there's investigative alerts. If you have an investigative alert or a warrant, it doesn't bring anything up about your rap sheet. But there's an important reason why it doesn't. It shouldn't be brought up. I mean, I can run your information through my computer and then get your rap sheet, but it takes a very long time.
But when the initial stop from
initial
the
stop,
plate,
no. But even more so,
okay.
but more so,
okay.
what the reason that we're putting this process in place is because there's a rating system on both sides. So you're an upstanding citizen, regardless of your background.
That's right.
You've had positive police
taxes.
interactions in the back and
20 years
before.
ago.
So guess what? Now the police officer sees your profile as well, and it says from other police officers you have a 4.5 rating. That means you have had no issues with police officers doing these issues or during traffic stops. So now a police officer establishes a level of trust with you, and you establish a level of trust with them. Because if I'm a 4.7 rated officer, vice a 2.0 rated officer, then your engagement with me is going to be much different.
Okay, so that I guess you have to break it down to terminology, because that's what I've always wondered. So the rating is, as you said, so I'm assuming a 2.0 means
they need to go back to training.
Hold your gun.
Well, I probably should be pulling people over anyway.
Well, we're talking. She's asking about the community.
Well, because he
rating.
said if I have a 4.5 rating, then that means I'm basically I come in peace. You know,
right? You're compliant. So a person that has a poor police interaction is probably not going to be using this app anyway. Right? It's not for everybody, you know. So police officers are still going to be.
So are you gonna run my name when I connect myself to the app?
But that's the point,
if
right?
I have a warrant.
But here's the thing.
I got so many questions.
Here's the thing, right? When your information comes up, and when a police officer is able to now complete the next level of their traffic stop without them approaching your vehicle, which is where 80% of police escalation happens, because you're confused. There's broken trust. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who this person is.
I don't want a ticket.
But you're in fear. You're frustrated. You don't know why they're here. You don't know who they are. But vice versa, they don't know you either. Yeah. So now somebody walks up to your car and say, "Ma'am, let me have your license." You say, "Well, why are you pulling me over?" And you say, "Well, why it says, well, give me your license." You say, well, why am I pulling you over?
Hold that thought. We need to pay some bills. Listen, once again, you're watching Frontline, the Frontline show on Pop Worldwide, iHeartRadio, Spotify Premium. We'll be back after this music break. Welcome back to the Frontline show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, as of course, Queenie Greene, and we have Dimitri Roberts in the house. Listen, tune in to this show every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. See, y'all didn't expect the type of guests we had today. This is the first show, and it's gonna get greater and greater. I don't really know if it can get greater than this app that we're about to introduce to the world real soon. But look, go to Tyrone Muhammad Facebook, of course. Go to my YouTube channel and please subscribe. But you tuned in to Pop Radio worldwide, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. We thank you all for tuning in, and I'm gonna let Dimitri wrap it up and tell us more about this app, because I'm sure this is what I'm hearing from the people. They want to hear more about this app.
Yes.
And and one last thing, I just want to say, listen, this is what it's about. This is what this show is about, imparting information. And he gave y'all some great keys out there, some great jewels to hold on to. So anything else you want to share about the app? And I guess we'll ask the questions as they come up.
Well, I mean, this is going to generate a lot of questions. It's going to generate a lot of conversation. Understand something, that at the foundation of everything that we're doing at 7 Star, the foundation of this app was built for you. And when I say you, the people that are watching, it's not just citizens, it's police officers as well. And this is addressing a dual-sided issue. And a lot of reasons that things haven't been successful like this in the past is because it just wanted to look at one side and not the other. And now we get a chance to take a dual approach and be really responsible about how we're addressing each other, and really come back to something that Queenie started to touch on earlier, and I think it's a very valid point. We have to bring and instill some humanity back into how we're engaging each other, and not get so caught up on, I'm from this community, or I'm a police officer. At the end of the day, I'm human. And me being human should outweigh anything else when you have a moment where you can impact somebody's life in an important way. And during police interactions, I was joking during the break. I said, nobody calls the police when things are going okay. So it's not just our responsibility as law enforcement officers to come in and try to make things better, but it's also the citizens' responsibility to understand that you should be trying to make things better too, for all of us.
For your own community.
For your own community, but also maybe for the police officer that's showing up. Because a lot of people don't understand. Let me just say this. A lot of people don't really understand that when I worked in Inglewood, I may have not been the nicest person to you when I pulled you over, Queenie, and I apologize about that, right? Because you ran a stop sign, and then you got frustrated with me when I walked up to your car window, and you said, and you were frustrated because you were running late to get the kid, and you're like, well, I didn't do anything, what's going on? But also on the other side of that, maybe what you didn't realize is I had just came from dealing with a child's homicide. I don't get to go home. I didn't get to go home after seeing a 7-year-old shot. I didn't get to go home after seeing a 3-year-old who was in a car accident and they're no longer with us. I had to go to my next call. So if I wasn't responsible for that, or when I left the hospital having to tell a mother that her son died, I didn't get a chance to go home and take a break. I had to go back, and I had to answer the next radio call. I had to go out and continue to serve my community. So it's just important that you understand, and everybody understands, that police officers in most cases come from the same communities as you, and in most cases understand things in the same capacity as you, but we have to approach things much differently. And that's not saying that cops cross the line all the time. There are bad apples in the Chicago Police Department. There's bad apples throughout the country. I'm not saying that those folks don't need to be weeded out, but what we're doing with Protected and what you'll see on the app is via the rating system. Now you can say, hey, you know what, Officer Roberts actually gave me a break. He didn't give me a ticket.
I think policing their own neighborhoods that they live in, I think that's a very good idea, because the neighborhood is going to respond to them differently because they know them, because they know them because they're a neighbor. And the police officer is going to respond a little differently to what's going on in the neighborhood because they know the children and they actually know what's going on, because it's hard, I'm sure, on both ends. For me I'm on the criminal end, you on the police officer end. I know it's hard to come into it makes me upset for you to come into my neighborhood and tell me I can't stand here, or tell me when the owner of the store, he okay with me standing here because sometimes I sweep for him, but you don't live in my neighborhood, so you just see me dressed in regular clothes, if it is jeans, whatever the case is, and your job is to make me move off the corner. But you don't know that he lets us, so things like that.
So I can tell you why that, I can tell you as a police officer who worked in the same communities I grew up in, I can tell you I was able to be more impactful because I did understand. However, now that we start to, understand how police agencies work, how people get assigned, it's just not feasible that all the police officers that come from those neighborhoods are going to be able to work in those neighborhoods. No. So we still have to create a way to have better and more positive interactions between both citizens and the police, but also understand what you're dealing with. So on the other side of this app, when you're done with your police interaction, you get a receipt in perpetuity of every police interaction that you've had. That gives you the police officer's name, their badge number, the agency that they work for, the reason that you were stopped, but also the law that was associated with why you were stopped. And if you were issued a citation, that citation will be right there in the app, but also you can pay your tickets right in the app too. So
that's real. That's saving people a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
time and money
Yes.
off work. I mean, to
And
address
standing in
tickets.
3 lines and
listen,
explaining the same story,
to pay
and then get to the
your
4th line.
ticket
Yes.
off
Man.
the app.
Yep.
Right off the
That
app.
It
is
keeps
great.
track of all of the tickets that you receive. It tells you when those tickets are due. But because nobody wants to get a boot on their car, I was a cop and got a boot on my car. I was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
But the city of Chicago writes 13,500 new tickets a day.
Wow.
That's over 350,000 tickets a month. That's over 4.5 million tickets a year, Tyrone.
Man.
And so what continues to happen is primarily people from under-resourced communities get tickets on their car. My goddaughter, Essence Oliver, right now called me and said, my car has a boot on it and it's impounded and it's gonna cost me $1,200 to get it out. So you get upcharged on things that you should, and it's all because what do you do with the ticket, Tyrone? I took the ticket off the car, feed it to the fish, and then get another ticket. It blew off the car, and then you get another ticket, and you like, I got 2 tickets, but you really got 3. And the city of Chicago goes to put a boot on your car, and what would have cost you $75 or $100 to get taken care of, now it's costing you over $1,000. So you got to understand that in a lot of cases, it's not just, sometimes you're not just being wrongly processed by just a police officer, but you're being
The
wrongly
entire
processed by the system.
The
And
entire
electronic
process.
law enforcement, which is how you get tickets, is a real thing, and it's a real thing that impacts our communities in a significant way, because you don't have $1,200 to go get your car out of the pound after getting $75 worth of tickets, but that's what you got to pay to get it out. And so I want to make sure that that process is easier. And then for the first people that are using our apps, people will get between 5 and 25% off their ticket payments.
I was just gonna ask that if I download within like the first 30 days, can I get a little something off the tickets?
You will get up to 25% off your ticket payments.
About this, from what I see, is, I mean, as an ex-offender and me being the person who tried or who put forth opportunities for other ex-offenders to get employment, the fact that the people from these communities that's most affected will be able to have an opportunity towards employment with what it is that you do.
Yeah, we don't, at
yes.
7 Star, we don't discriminate against employment. So whether you have a background, whether you have a felony, you can be employed with us as long as you are willing to be a team player, and as long as you're willing to come to work and do the things that we need you to do. And just to talk a little bit about our benefits, we have unlimited vacation policy. You pay 0 healthcare premiums, and you have the best healthcare coverage, as well as the equipment and infrastructure that you need to be available to help our processes move forward. That's just a little bit about the company, but at the end of the day, because Tyrone, what happens is, and I both know very well that there's about a 2-week window when you get out and when you need to be actively engaged in something that causes the recidivism rate in our communities to escalate. So we want to step in and we want to say, you know what, the information that you have is very valuable, because guess what? The reason that the violent crime clearance rate in Chicago is so low is because nobody trusts the police.
Right.
Well, we want to create a system where if you don't trust the police, we're asking you to trust us. So we're going to protect you, we're going to protect your data and your information, but we're going to make sure it gets in the right channels to get these things done in your community so you can feel safer, you can go to school and you can send your kids to school and you can come home and feel safe in the community that you live in, and you can contribute to that in a significant way.
One last quick question. Okay, so say for a person that is having a situation, if I have the app, can I capture their situation? Like, can I be that good Samaritan if they are engaged in I see something going on and they can't get to their phone? If I have the app, can I? There's a
feature in our app that says,
can I use it on someone else's behalf?
There's a feature in the app that says record my stop, and it will. You can turn on a recording feature. The goal of doing that, but it's both for the police officer and for the citizen. The goal of doing that is that now you have a record of your interaction with that law enforcement officer, and the law enforcement officer has a record of his interaction with you or her interaction with you in a way that's important to them. So now you have that, and you don't have to go through some system to get a Freedom of Information Act and all that stuff. You have that available to you, but it's attached to your profile. So this is more so about you, and it's attached to your profile. So then nobody can ever question what happened or what was going on with you or the police officer. So
before we close, I just want you to tell the people when their camera once again how they can find 7 Star and any other information.
Yeah, so www.svnstar. The name of our company is 7 Star, and the name of the app is called Protected. Take a look at it. Fill out the form online. Send me your questions. You can even email us, info@7star.com. That's info@svnstar.com. Send us your questions. Send us your thoughts. Because again, this is first stage development of this app. I want to hear from the community. I want to hear from police officers. I want to hear how we can make this better collectively. Because at the end of the day, we all have to use it, and we all want to just be a little bit more safer.
So with that being said, people listen. I'm going to put more information on my website, Facebook, and the likes, YouTube channel as well. But personally, today, the man is about the business. We've even went today just to see where operation centers are going to come from. And he's strategizing on how to get this in the communities. So we coming to you, be prepared, and we need your help to push it, to boost it. So once again, this is the Frontline Show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, Queenie, and this is Pop Radio Worldwide, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Next week, people, come on back. Thank you for tuning in.
Bangs on the beat.
I want to give big shout outs, big props to my man Tyrone Muhammad, the Frontline Show on Pop Radio Worldwide.
Man.